Marcia with show and I was muted. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Marcia Weeks, and you are watching the Marcia Weeks show. And today is a great day to be alive, isn't it? It's a great day, guys. We are breathing. We're taking in that oxygen. And we are alive. There is blood flowing in our veins, and we are excited to be alive. And I know a lot of things are happening all around us, and sometimes it can be so scary. I mean, it's been 2 years, 2.5 years of this pandemic, and it can be scary. But I want to say if you're watching, just know something good is turning in your life. Okay, something good is turning in your life today. It is a great day to be alive. Yes, and spread that hope, spread the joy, spread the hope, spread the joy. It's a wonderful day. I see people are logged on. Just tell me exactly where you're watching from. Yes, and so I can say hello and hi to you. Great to have you. And I'm going to ask you to share. Today's show is so very important. As you know, we've been looking at child abuse, not just in Barbados, but throughout the region. And so today, we're going to look specifically at what is happening in Barbados at the government industrial schools in Barbados. And that's where we're broadcasting from. And we have with us SHEAKA CARRINGTON, and she's going to join us in a moment. But listen, I needed to share. I needed to let people know that we're on. And to those who are watching me from on Caribbean, welcome, guys. Thank you for staying with me. And you know what? Call the neighbor and tell them to turn on the television. And so we're being broadcasted into 16 different Caribbean countries, guys. And we're talking about a very important topic today. Very important topic. We are looking at child abuse. Yes, we're looking at child abuse in the Caribbean, specifically in Barbados. And we note that over the last 2 days, there were some recordings on the television in Barbados. And these were from former wards of GIS. And they were basically saying that there's nothing wrong. I think they were saying what a wonderful experience they had. However, there are others who have been traumatized by the experience. And so we want to look at that today. Is this a PR stunt? Is this a campaign? Is this to shut up those who are asking for change? What is happening is like the UNICEF has asked for change there. So, what does this mean? So we have to join us in the studio today is Miss SHEAKA CARRINGTON. But just before she comes, I want to remind you, right? I really want to remind you of what the minister said. Okay, so the minister. So let me just bring that up for you as a reminder. That's going to come up on the screen right now, and while it's coming up, I'm going to ask you to share. Okay.
The suggestion of the abuse and the bad treatment of these young ladies is not what is coming out on social media. At the end of it all, a number of them apologized. They made a promise in front of everybody to try to do better and to handle their conflicts better. I mean, there's some other things that led to conflict with them. I don't want to tell you because I don't want to trivialize. I don't want them to then see it in the paper and feel that we breached their trust. But I can tell you that we as a board are very comfortable that the suggestions that are rampant out there about the mistreatment of these youngsters at the facility are baseless.
You know, I have to because before SHEAKA comes, I want to play this again before SHEAKA comes. So let's just listen again. This is what the Minister Wilfred Abrams is saying. And the question is, what's happening on the television right now where former wards are coming forward to say there's no mistreatment at the GIS. Is this part of the PR campaign? Is it a stunt? What are they doing? What are they doing? And it's coming over nightly. And they're using the state television to do this. Is this, in a way, shutting up the girls? Is this what it's all about? Listen again, guys.
The suggestion of the abuse and the bad treatment of these young ladies is not what is coming out on social media. At the end of it all, a number of them apologized. They made a promise in front of everybody to try to do better and to handle their conflicts better. I mean, there's some other things that led to conflict with them. I don't want to tell you because I don't want to trivialize. I don't want them to then see it in the paper and feel that we breached their trust. But I can tell you that we as a board are very comfortable that the suggestions that are rampant out there about the mistreatment of these youngsters at the facility are baseless.
Wow. So we heard that, right? So we're hearing that. He's saying that it's baseless. Baseless. The suggestions that they are baseless. Okay, so the question we want to know, guys, is this what's happening, what we're seeing on CBC? Is that a support of this report that was made here in April? This was actually a couple of days after before the girls left the institution, the two young girls before they left the institution. Okay, and so this is our Wilfred Abrams saying that the allegations of mistreatment at GIS is baseless. So the question is, these two young ladies who are coming out on CBC and they're interviewing them and they're talking about the grand time that they've had at the facility. The question that we want to know, is this part of the campaign? Well, we have with us here Miss SHEAKA CARRINGTON. Welcome, SHEAKA.
Hi, Queen.
It's so great to have you here again with us. The last time you were here, I've gotten so many calls, from viewers and saying how they were so inspired by what you had to say. Even yesterday, someone called to find out, they wanted an update on SHEAKA. And, guys, SHEAKA is a former ward of the government industrial schools here in Barbados. And this is a school where the, girls are supposed to go there to be rehabilitated and to be put back into society. SHEAKA, how long were you at GIS?
I was at GIS 3 different times. The first time was one night. The second time was 2 months and 2 weeks. And the third time was for 4 days. I was never committed to the school.
So, okay. And so that was your experience. And can you briefly, for those who didn't hear you the last time, just briefly, summarize how you got there, how you ended up in government care?
Well, I ended up in government care due to the fact of abuse at home and retaliating from that abuse at home. Not being, my voice not being heard by my loved ones, especially my mother. So it led me to, rebel against everything. And I was given trouble in school and that kind of thing. So it would have led me to different places before I ended up in the government industrial school.
And when you say abuse at home, this was sexual abuse in your household?
Yes, from my stepfather. I was touched. I was molested, not like sexually, like nobody inserted me or anything. I wasn't raped. I was touched at home from my stepfather.
And because of that, you found that you were rebelling because your mom would not listen.
Yes, and my mom told me the first thing she said to me was to not tell anybody. And I never realized how that had affected me, wherein like I wasn't able to talk about a lot of things, but I would act on a lot of things, or
Ah.
act out on stuff, not knowing exactly why I am behaving that way.
Understood, Shiaka. Only last week I was dealing with a situation with a young lady, and I started off being very hard on her because I have a school, and so she was supposed to do some work. I wouldn't say too much of the case publicly, but and I was getting really hard on her until. And that's why I'm so glad we had the conversation, Shiaka. Something hit me, and I said, she's behaving so strange, this child. This is so unusual, her behavior. And I told the mom, I said, why don't you send her by me, for a couple hours? And, I wouldn't, as I said, go into too much detail, but right there and then, as my husband and I spoke with her, this is what she blurted out. And, she asked my husband to leave the room. And this child was weeping and explaining that, she was molested. And a lot of times we see, Shiak, as you were saying, we see the acting out, and we as adults, we start to point a finger, and we start to try to find a way to control that child, and to sometimes we lash them. And like in my case, I was getting ready to punish her, in terms of in a school setting. But thank God that we had that conversation. And then I saw some signs, actually. I saw some signs with her, Shiaka. And I told the mom, I said, I'd like to speak with her. And luckily that we did that. And yes, I did get the work that I needed, but she felt so relieved in being able to express herself and to say exactly what happened. So I personally want to thank you for that. Now, I'm sure that your time at GIS, would you say that you were rehabilitated? How did it affect your life? You're a big woman with your own daughter, a daughter of your own. Can you tell me what part did that time at GIS played in your life?
Well, I would say that it didn't do me any good. It was just like I got locked away in a prison away from home without having a valid reason why, besides the fact that I was given trouble and, creating these realities for myself. But it was not my fault, if you get where I'm coming from.
Right.
So, being there, it was like I was so lost and so emotionally broken. I used to cry, 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 because I am an emotional person, still is, right? So I used to cry a lot being there. It wasn't like no counseling, it wasn't no love, it wasn't no connection. It was just a bunch of girls and people who are looking after us, and they can do whatever they want whenever they want to us. You get me? I never
Yes.
experienced abuse in the government industrial school. I would not say that I experienced physical abuse. Nobody never touched me, right? I never experienced sexual abuse, but I would say that I experienced verbal abuse by some of the staff. The way how they would talk to us, you know what I mean? The way how they would carry you in at times. It's like, is it really healthy for a young girl who's going through the troubles that she is to be in an environment with adults who's behaving like that?
Right. And I'm listening to you, and as you mentioned about the verbal abuse, and I'm saying that there's so many of our children, Shiaka, within the primary school system, not just in Barbados, but throughout the region. And they're experiencing such hardships at home. I remember, my case was physical abuse. and neglect, and going to school and hearing, I mean, the teachers, the way they spoke to me, because I didn't look like the other children. When children are neglected, they look a certain way, right? So my hair isn't properly done, my uniform is torn up or just draining, not clean. I'm a child, I don't wash clothes, and sometimes I would have come without any food. And so the verbal abuse from the teachers, was crippling. Actually, I had to go to therapy for years later because of that verbal abuse. So I could totally understand what you're saying, because you went to a place where you're to be rehabilitated, but then you're being verbally abused by the staff. Put on top of that, you're saying that there wasn't much counseling. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
There wasn't any counseling there at the center. It was just like you host, in this place, as I said, with a bunch of girls and people who are looking after you. You're not fed with healthy meals, they eat the fruits and the vegetables, like nobody ain't teaching you schooling like that. Well, when I first went there wasn't any kind of school at all. But then the first time I went to the where it was the boys and the girls together.
Yes.
That was on the below side of where they built the new building on the above side, which is closer to Dodds now, the big prison, right? So I went there in the time when they transitioned from that small building to the bigger, better building up there. So then the illusion was that we have classrooms there and the girls would get, schooling and that kind of thing. So we used to actually get ready to go to school on a morning.
Yes.
Right. And that was the time I was there. So I cannot say, because of my short stay, I cannot say how they continued to carry out the program or what programs were introduced after. I can't say because I wasn't there then.
But when you were there, one of the things you would have wanted was counseling, and you're saying you didn't get the counseling. There was nothing scheduled. You sure? Was it a case where there was counseling and you didn't go to the counseling?
No, there wasn't any counseling. The counseling would be, okay, so you in this place with girls, and the most important thing is your court date. That's the most important thing, is your court date. When next I'm going to court, I'm going to go to court, right? To know what is my fate, if I'm going to get these years or if I'm going to get another chance to go home and be better and do better.
Right.
But how can I go home and do better and be better in the same environment that caused me to be there in the first place?
I
right?
see what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah, so that's the most important thing for every girl in Somerville, is the court date when you are on remand. So after you get committed, now the court date is not important. The most important thing then is doing you time or trying to escape this jail that you are in, and you know full well that you don't deserve to be there. You didn't do anything as a child like so bad, unless you don't do robberies and you steal, or but through abuse and trauma, and you trying to get away from it, and you end up in the hands of a man or men, or you out there just in society lost, and then they take you up for wandering. You following what you're saying, Queen?
Yes. So you're saying that majority of those children that are there, in their minds, they know they didn't do anything wrong. In fact, a lot of them, they probably think that things were done to them. And so you're saying that is why, after the court date, after they know that, well, you have 3 to 5 years here, that is why they try to escape.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or conform to everything.
Or
right?
conform.
Just conform to the ways of, and this is why we would have girls now that I know personally, because I know one of the girls that on the news talking, I was locked up with her. And I know full well personally that she is not telling the truth right now.
Wow. So you're saying that you know one of those girls that was locked up and
Yep,
you don't believe she's telling the truth because you were in there around the same time.
yep.
My goodness.
So
And
she
why is
now,
it you think she's not telling the truth?
no, she now, I don't know if it's some kind of gimmick, but I know right now the way how she's telling her story, she's trying to pacify something, like she's trying to make it look better than it was.
Mm. But
Right? So my
why do you think she? I would think that, I mean, yourself and there's Monica and some of the other people that I know. I hear some of the parents, and they truly want to see reform. A person like yourself and Monica, every time I talk to you, I'm compelled to keep pushing. And so, but why would she? Do you think she would choose to paint such a rosy picture?
I think that she was called to do that.
Okay.
And then right, there's something called Stockholm Syndrome, where it's like, say you were kidnapped, but then you turn around and fall in love with your kidnapper.
Ah,
You
interesting.
get
Tell me
me?
more. Tell me more about that.
So so it's like you are so traumatized, and as a child, you don't even know the difference between the trauma. You haven't even looked in yourself enough to recognize what
Mm-hmm.
have gone wrong. So you just actually living through your trauma and calling it something, not even recognizing that you are still traumatized. So I
Wow.
am not surprised by what they are saying. I'm not saying, I know that she's not telling the full truth,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I am not saying that the sister is a liar either. You get
Right.
me? Because
Right.
maybe
Yes.
she could have been in the situation. And because remember, she said that she left her grandmother's house and
Mm-hmm.
she got her 3 years. So when I listened to those interviews, I had questions in my head, which
Mm-hmm.
in these are questions that I would have always had in my head for myself based on my situation. But hearing her talk about her experience, knowing that this is a person I know, and my questions in my head were, so why did you want to leave your grandmother house? Like, why you ran away from your grandmother house? What was happening at your grandmother house? Where
Right.
was your mother? Where was your father? What was happening in your life that your mother and father was missing? Like, why are we not talking about the traumas that have led us to the government industrial school? Why are we skipping past the traumas and all the other things that we had to live through that caused us to be juvenile delinquents? Queen, you still there?
Yes, yes, I'm hearing you. Just had a technical thing there. So you're saying you are attributing what is happening with that sister to the Stockholm syndrome, which you have so eloquently taught us on the show about what this is, and it's because she's fallen in love with her with the captors. You're saying basically.
Yeah.
Wow, that is
Because
that
you are,
is.
because as a child, if you are a child, right, you don't already know the difference. So if you get 3 to 5 years in a place, it's either you're gonna rebel or you're gonna conform.
Mm-hmm.
It's either two things that you're gonna do, right?
Right.
You're gonna either rebel or conform. So obviously there were the students, there were some who were favorites of the staff, who would do
Mm-hmm.
the dirty work for the staff, who gonna tell the staff who in the kitchen can't wear biscuit. You get what I'm
Mm,
saying? Who gonna tell the
yes.
staff who bringing up things so we can eat in the darn part of night?
Mm, I see. I see what you're saying. So you would you in your assessment, I mean, and I love this is why I love talking to you, Queen. And I love how you said you're not saying that that sister is a liar, but she's responding out of the experiences that she's had, basically. And but you're not saying she's a liar. But why do you think the government is doing this, presenting this these young ladies on state TV? What do you think is happening?
I think that they are trying to hide up what is really going on inside the industrial school, right? I have been there between the ages of 13 and I think about 14. I can't really remember the dates precisely, but it's a long time that I haven't been there, and so much things could have happened in that time, which is part of the things that we have been hearing within the last 2 years. The girl in the cell naked, and all the different things that were coming out that they were trying to hide up. So for me, I'm thinking that they are trying to hide something. The way how they are doing it through the media. Now, I already know that the media is created to put things out there to make the masses believe what they want them to believe, and not what is really happening, right? So
Right.
reality is, I know that the public was becoming irate because they were getting a more solid understanding of what is happening inside of that institution. So the best thing for the government to do is try to bring in people. Where were these girls all the time talking about how good an experience Somerville was? They were not around. You
You
get
know,
me?
yeah, actually, UNICEF, I have on the screen here, UNICEF did a report on justice for children in Barbados. This is UNICEF. Okay, so this is an international body that is resident here in Barbados. And I just want to scroll down to page 9. Okay, I'm going to scroll down to page 9, Chiaka, and to those who are watching. And I think there's a former ward who is actually watching, and she's agreeing with what you're saying. And I think UNICEF is also agreeing with what you're saying, Chiaka. So the question is, our sisters who are being used in such a manner, there has to be going on with them. Because here is UNICEF saying that their research found that the system in Barbados insufficiently ensures that rehabilitation is a core principle informing the administration of juvenile justice. This manifested in several ways, including, and this is what you're saying, Queen, the lack of emphasis on diversion of cases and the inherent shortcomings with the existing national diversion scheme. Number 2, inappropriate remand practices that result in the unnecessary detention of children. This is exactly what you were saying, Queen, about a lot of the children knowing that they didn't do anything wrong to be there, and they feel they're in prison. Look at this. Inappropriate discriminatory sentencing practices. Of particular note is an unfortunate interpretation of the law that has resulted in sentences of a minimum of 3 years and a maximum of 5 years. This practice, UNICEF says, has been applied to all cases, including juveniles, including status offenses such as wandering. Children who are clearly in need of care and protection are being sentenced to 3 to 5 years. They talk about, UNICEF speaks about insufficient access to family and community with children who are detained, having limited access to their families through structured visits to the facility and rarely allowed into the general community. UNICEF talks about the placement of children in adult prison. At the time of the review, they said there were 17 children aged 18 years of age or less at the adult prison. And contrary to the law, young persons under the age of 16 were not segregated from adult prisoners. Of course, they're talking about male and female. So these are some of the things, Shiaka, that UNICEF actually, that they found wrong with the system. They said they found that the laws governing GIS was outdated, right? It has a strong punishment orientation as opposed to a treatment and rehabilitation philosophy. That's exactly what you said, Queen. No counseling. You didn't get any counseling. Incorporates children in need of care and protection under a legislative scheme that is otherwise very punishment oriented. Guys, are you hearing this? Are you hearing what SHEAKA is saying? And are you hearing what UNICEF is saying? And you would have heard at the top of this program where Wilfred Abrams, the minister, said what? That he says that there's no evidence of any mistreatment. There's nothing wrong. He says it's baseless. So UNICEF is lying and the wards are lying, right? Of what happened, what's happening to them. It allows whipping of boys who do not conform to the institution's rules, right? Encourages the criminalization and stigmatization of conduct that is more appropriately handled within a child protection legislative framework. Children, for example, children wandering, begging. Yeah, if you beg on the street, you could end up at GIS and be given 3 to 5 years. UNICEF says it creates a very discriminatory and a harmful mandatory sentencing provision of a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 5 years. And this is what UNICEF is saying, and being backed up by a lot of what SHEAKA is saying. Now, SHEAKA, you talk about verbal abuse. What do you mean? They're cursing at you? Is that they're cursing? Or it's just insults?
They definitely will curse you sometimes, but even if they don't curse you, the way how the English language is, how you use your words sometimes could dampen a person's spirit. You could speak down to a person, or you could speak up to a person. You could speak life to a person, or you could speak death to a person. So if you have a child in a juvenile delinquent center, right, saying that you are rehabilitating them, why would you be in that child's face saying you would never turn out to be nothing?
Wow.
You will never be no good. Look at you. Look at what caused you to be in here. And talk to you in this kind of way. And this is the thing. It's not even in the juvenile delinquent centers that we have people in authority who talks to children this way, because we have teachers in Barbados who do these things.
Yes.
And then they blame children for their behavior, but they don't realize as adults what they are doing as well.
So you're saying the languaging would not help rehabilitation. In fact, it's going to push you to go further.
Yes. So then you have the girls fighting, and it's just one mess sometimes. And then this is where counseling will come in now. If you get into trouble, or you give trouble, you end up in the mental. That's the next place. That's the next place from Somerville where you go.
Right there. I would like for people, guys, you're listening, and this is why, for me, guys, this is a hill. I keep saying it, and I don't know if people think I'm joking. This is a hill I'm prepared to die on. And I think, listen to what this young lady is saying. The only time you could get any counseling is if they send you to the mental. You think that they're really about rehabilitation for these young ladies? Can't be. So the rehabilitation, and we live in a society where we know when you go to the mental, right? The connotation. Wow. Continue, SHEAKA.
Yeah, so they will send you to the mental, and then your counseling will be from the psychiatrist or whatever is in the mental, right? So I just think it's a real sad situation, and I think that they really need to stop hiding it and really look at the root of this issue. because it will just keep, being like a sore in society and creating a lot of criminals out there in society, or a lot of people who don't know themselves, so they're doing any and everything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know,
Right?
I was speaking to another ward who said that after leaving there, you know, she went back to volunteer because she was trying to see if she could help any of the girls. And she said she witnessed such beatings of the girls by the same staff. She said she cried watching it. Okay, so there are reports of physical abuse. This is what our young people, this is what our young ladies are telling us. Physical abuse is there, verbal abuse is there, no counseling. Okay, the only time you get counseling is if they send you off to the mental, which we saw happen with the girls that ran away. They were put at the mental, right? What about nutrition? You talked about nutrition.
No healthy meals. The only way you can get fruit is if your parent bring it for you. But other than that, the school does not provide fruits and vegetables for nobody to eat.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So there's
You know,
no healthy foods.
no.
My goodness. And the UNICEF report talked about not allowing the children to be more connected with their families. What do you think about that? Or with the outside world, or with, you know, even if it's not their immediate family, but with other people in the outside world? What's your thoughts about that?
But who would they connect with in the outside world when there
Mm.
is a stigma towards the experience in itself? So
Ah,
ain't really nobody to connect with besides the places for juvenile delinquents. If you get where you're coming from, because
right. I see.
there's no other recreation center for these girls or boys. There's no other rehabilitation center for these girls and boys. So where will they go and who will they mingle with without being stigmatized as you, that's that some of a girl, or that's
Mm-hmm.
that fella that get locked up in dogs? He was always hard ears. He was always, but nobody ain't looking at what has caused him to be that way, to be so
Mm-hmm.
angry, to go and
Mm-hmm.
want to take up a gun, to be so angry that you don't want to be in the house, that you end up down the road by some man that he older than you are, that kind
Yes,
of thing. Like
yes, yes.
you run away from home for a week and you ain't got no clothes, you ain't got no food, so you're from pillar to
Mhm.
post trying to get by.
Right, right. Wow. So
Right.
Shiaka, when you left there, because I read somewhere where a former board member was saying that one of the issues that the wards experience is that when they have left the institution, that it's on their record. In fact, I think it affects. I can't remember everything I read, but it seemed to be something permanent on your record. How has it affected you in terms of jobs and you know, being getting right back into society? Is it something that is still on your record?
Well, because I was never committed, I never had to go through that. But
Mm-hmm.
because people know that that was my experience, a lot of people don't ever forget who you were before, right?
Wow.
So for me, I was never a person to keep a job,
Mm-hmm.
right? I never could have deal with rules and regulations or going into a job and you get hired to do one thing, but they want you to do 100 things for that one money you're being paid for. Like I was never that type to actually take any of that. So
Mm-hmm.
I probably never had a job longer than 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I had to live through my traumas in
Mm.
essence
You
and
lived through
find
the trauma.
myself.
Wow. You said something there. So you basically, it's like you have a sore, you get cut, you get wounded, and
Yes.
instead of it being treated, stay there, you get gangrene, you get all kinds of things, and you have to live through it. So you heal, but it's not, the cut wasn't stitched up, So you're going to still see that that's, it doesn't look right. Well, if they had taken that cut and stitch it up, you know what I mean, Shiaka, then when you look, if it's on your hand, when you look on your hand, then it would still, it wouldn't look so terrible. So you're saying basically that you healed as you just lived and healed. Whatever happened, happened, right?
Yeah.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I had to live through my traumas, and I found myself in the mix of the traumas, and I learned that, the most traumatized individuals in life, when them actually find themselves, they be the most spiritual or the most creative, or, they have a different knack for things, right? So I remember diving deep inside myself, and it was not intentionally like I want to do this or I want to do that. I remember, reminding myself, you so talented with your hands, and you could do hair so well, and reminding myself of who I am, or what I know about me. And then I started to do jewelry making, and I'm a seamstress today, certified. I'm a certified herbalist. I'm a certified Reiki master now, and it's pretty new, so I now have to practice, in that field. But I make soaps, I make products, I do so much things. I love my garden. I grow food, I grow stuff, so I was able to find that in the mix of my traumas. I was able to always keep the warrior spirit and that fire burning inside me, and keep going regardless of the situation, keep moving, and to find me, the divine me. One day I heard something said to me, Shiaka, the life that you are living right now, there's so much more to it, and you need to find that, right?
Wow.
I heard it so clear, and I started to follow that voice. I started to follow the feeling, of, because sometimes you might think it's a voice, but it might not necessarily be a voice. It might be a feeling that your heart and mind translate into a voice, so that
Yes.
So I started to follow my intuition. I learned it was my intuition. I started to follow the feeling, and that's where how I find myself where I am today. Is true, to myself, as I, come along here. You search for God and you find yourself. You search for yourself and you find God. And so a lot of these things that are external, you learn to don't, really let it matter, but find yourself from inside you and shine that light
Yeah.
outside you. So that's how I was able to get through the whole experience.
Wow. Shiaka, that is powerful. That is powerful because I'm telling you, trauma, trauma could cripple you really. Emotional trauma. And I know it's a journey. You're not even there yet, but all that you've accomplished and all that you have realized, I mean, even the creativity and all the things you're making soap, you're an entrepreneur, so many things. But a lot of what you are speaking of came a little later in life. You went to the GIS at about 12 or 13, you said, or 13, 14?
About 13, about 12 to 14, around that time.
At that age. So can you imagine if you had gone there and gone through some counseling and found yourself earlier?
Yep.
Wow. When you were a little girl, what is it that you wanted to do?
Pardon?
When you were a little girl, like at 12 years old, 11, 10, before the abuse, what was your dream? What is it that you wanted to do in life?
From about 5 years old, I always knew that I wanted to be a hairdresser and own my own salon.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
don't know why at this time I am feeling so emotional right now.
Yes.
Yep. Because
Well,
I always knew what I wanted and who I wanted to be.
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And you had something happen to you. It's at 8 years old that really changed your life and brought a lot of trauma in your life, you know,
Yeah.
because that's the age that the abuse, the sexual abuse happened, where you were touched inappropriately by your stepfather, and that in a way impeded what your dreams were as a little girl, you know.
Yeah.
Wow, wow.
And then also losing my father, right? Also losing my father, and then the experiences of, because if my father was alive, I probably still would have given a little bit of trouble as, you know, a normal teenager going through the adolescent and hormonal stages and stuff. But
Yes.
not having my father around, and my mother not being the mother that she, you know, is supposed to be. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that is a really wise statement to say, the mother she is supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
because I am now learning to appreciate her for who she is and
Wow,
what she was
Shaka.
able to bring to the table. I know
Mhm.
that that is all she knew. And I
Yes.
am very grateful, you know, for my experiences,
Wow. Yes.
and because they made me who I am today. And
Yes.
had I not been through these experiences, who would I have been? And I do see myself as a very, very powerful individual. And this is what I found inside myself through all the traumas. This ain't got nothing to do with nobody outside of me. This is all me.
Mm. Oh my goodness, Shiaka, just even hearing you say that, because, you know, as I said, you know, as a survivor of, you know, physical abuse, you know, as a child, it took me so long to be able to forgive those perpetrators, you know, the adults in my life who did so many things to me. And to hear you say that, I know you are far way into your healing to be able to say that about your mom. And, you know, I'm so, Chiaka, I am so proud of you, Queen. I'm honored. You see me smiling, and it's because my heart and my spirit is smiling. It's a joy to have met you. And, you know, Queen, I'm thinking that this is what we want to say to the authorities, to every little girl that's at the GIS. You know what? There's a queen in there. You know,
Yeah.
Shaka, there is a queen that needs to come out. And so this is why the counseling and the rehabilitation is so important, isn't it?
Hmm. Yeah. So I want to tell a story, right?
Yeah.
About in I think it was 2018. I was called by a sister queen friend of mine to perform at the Radisson's Hotel, because I do spoken word as well. But when I say I do everything that I mentioned that I do, some of it was just like to find that bit inside myself. But
Mm-hmm.
I, you know, I would is always there. Like I bought everything to do this stuff, but I may not be doing it at the present moment, but I can
Mm-hmm.
do it. I know my potential.
Mm-hmm.
So my spoken word, it was for a time when I was going out there and performing, and you know, I actually putting myself out there, and it took off, and I kind of got scared of it because it was not about fame. And then I realized that my spoken word was about me speaking to myself and empowering me. It wasn't really about anybody else, right? So
Oh.
I was called to the Radisson Hotel to perform,
Mm-hmm.
and I went, and you know, it was a lot of women that fight for the rights of women around the diaspora of the Caribbean and stuff. They were present, and you know, it was International Women's Day and stuff. So I performed my Black woman's poem,
Mm-hmm.
and then, you know, while performing it, I look across in the audience and saw my probation officer.
Huh.
Yeah. And because the name that I would use on the stage, or the name I would usually go by now, is Shalamaat.
Mm-hmm.
And and not really Shiaka. So she did not, my sister queen friend did not introduce me as Shiaka. She introduced me as Shalamaat. So here
Mm-hmm.
is my probations officer is looking at me like, I know this girl from somewhere. when I was in the institution, I didn't have any locks, but now I have dreads, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had my hair wrapped up and stuff, and she was looking at me, and our eyes, about four. And when I finished perform, before I finished perform, I said to them, I feel so compelled to tell y'all a part of my story. I said over there in the audience is my probation officer, Miss Robinson,
Uh-huh.
and she really fight for me, You see that woman? She is a gem, right?
Yes.
And I know that based on what my guidance counselor, revealed to me the other day, I know at some point in time, Miss Robinson probably realized something or something, and was probably helpless to the situation because of the system too.
Mm-hmm.
But she was always, mind you, everybody that I always came into contact with would always be really, really sweet to me, extra sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And when I finished performing, Miss Robinson got up in the middle of the audience, and she hugged me, and we cried, and everybody in the room cried, and she said, "Shiaka, I always knew it. I always knew that you were a queen." And
Wow.
that is the experience I had with my probation officer. Yep.
Wow.
So
Isn't that awesome? That is awesome. Well, there's a heaven. Thank you for sharing that powerful story, Shiaka. Oh my goodness. And there's a heaven Hoyt. And I would love if, do you know Heaven Hoyt? Shiaka?
no, no,
She
I
said
don't. I don't.
she's saying Shaka, she says, Shaka, I love you. And she says she seemed like she was a ward, Heaven, were you a ward in the GIS, in GIS as well? Because she says when those two girls did that interview last night and said that two girls used to be put in a cell, it brought back memories of a mattress on the ground and a pop seat in a corner of the cell. What's a pop seat?
Like a top sea somewhere to pass water in our
Oh,
feces in.
and oh, that's what she said. And if the other girl stool, you have to smell that till 7 a.m. in the morning. If she
Yeah.
stool the night, so that it's abuse right there. This is what heaven is saying.
Yes,
That
Heaven Hoy.
wow. So the
And
two
this is why it is hurtful for me right now. And I know that it is a gimmick from the system right now to try to hide up what is really going on. And the real voices are not being heard. Why are they not being heard? Because they may be still silenced, like the way how I talk, but when my mother said, don't tell nobody, people
girl.
don't understand how deep that trauma runs. So I know that there are many girls out there right now that will really love to tell them true story. But if I tell my true story, how will my mother look? How will my father look? How will my family look? Because they are still somewhat protecting the reputation of the people within the household or the family.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, cutting ties with my mother a couple of weeks ago is what gave me the courage to want to tell my story, but I didn't have a platform. This is how I know that everything that's happening is all spiritual, because
Mm-hmm.
quickly
Mm-hmm.
like that, the universe provided me with a platform where I could speak my truth without having to worry about how it's going to affect my mother, even though
Mm-hmm.
sometimes me and she might not be speaking,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Mm-hmm.
because it is a card connecting us, that I know how she reacts every time I mention something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I know if I go off to tell my story, how she gonna behave and how it's gonna affect her. So
Right.
cutting ties with her gave me the strength to be able to do this and not
To do
care
this.
what she thinks and not care what she feels, because I know that my dominant intention is to never make her look bad. I love my mother. I
Mm.
love that woman with everything in me. But I know
Mm.
because she does not know how to love herself, I had
Mhm.
to let that go to be able to continue to love myself and heal.
Yes, yes, yes. Wow. This is so awesome. Hey, real Isis, good to see you on. Heaven Hoyt is on, and Heaven. You know what, Heaven, I want to say to you, and it will be up to you, my sister. You know, right there on YouTube, I know you're watching on YouTube, you will see something that says StreamYard.com. And if you put that in your phone and click on it, you can come on and join your sister SHEAKA on the show. We still have a couple minutes. You can, Heaven, if you're listening, you don't have to show your face, okay? But you can come and join your sister SHEAKA on the show right now. So, Heaven, you're watching. I see you're watching on YouTube. And if you click, I'm going to put the link again, the StreamYard link right there. And if you click on that link, you can come right into the show and put it in your phone, and you can come on. You don't have to show your face, and you are able to share and join in with your sister SHEAKA on the show today. And Heaven is asking SHEAKA if you would say that poem, say that piece of poetry before the end of the show. And you know, it's so amazing, SHEAKA, because I was saying to myself, I think I need to do a show with just you know, you talked about people being creative, just poetry, and people sharing their experience and how life after abuse, how they were able to survive abuse, you know, through poetry. And it's so interesting that that Heaven is almost like she read my mind. And she's put it out there. Monica, hi, Monica. Good to see you. Monica, oh my goodness, Monica, I'd love for you to be on at some point. If it's the same Monica that is there. Monica, if you want to come on or you're able to, I'm putting a link there. I don't know where you're watching from, Monica, but you're free to come on. If it's on the Marcia Week show, you will see a link that says StreamYard, and you can click the link and you can come on. In addition to that, guys, we need to share and to let people know that we're on. To those of you who are watching on Carib Vision, I want to say that, you know what, we're talking here about Barbados, but you and I know that this abuse runs throughout the Caribbean. You know, it runs through the Caribbean. It's not just common to Barbados. And a lot of you are watching, and you know, you yourself might need help. And I'm going to put my number, at least the number of our school, I'm going to put here, that if you need any kind of help, we know of counselors that can help. If you're listening this and you say to yourself, you said, you know what, Mrs. Weeks, I'm listening, Marcia, and I know I'm not healed. I know I'm still hurting. This is a number you can call, and we'll be able to connect you with the right people. Okay? So that is very, very important. SHEAKA, do you want to give us a little bit of that that piece, that poetry piece? Do you know it?
Yeah, I know it, but for some reason I want to say a shorter piece, and because, well, I can say that piece.
And guess what? If you don't want to say it, that's the other thing. Because
no, I can say, Queen. I can say it.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
So this piece is called Black Woman. And it goes like this. What is the matter with women? Why are they behaving so common? Color blocking, mix matching, foolish fashion. All kind of nonsense to be in the action. Cannot break down pooch back rhythm. Setting a trend that you ain't got no sort of ambition. What happened to the days when we were ladies? Be fruitful and multiply and brought forth babies. Black woman, have you lost your mind? Because in reality, you lost your shine. I don't, whenever I see one, it's like a horror. It's like when I forget about the natural born power. Makeup packing like it cracking, all musty hair calling it tracking, outdated. When I must see VCR or remote control, wake up. The heritage got stole. The want is money. Ain't that funny? Black woman, have you lost your mind? Because in reality, you lost your shine. I don't know what I want to expect from the atrocities wanna select. European trend following, wanna swallowing. We have a very rich history, just they make it seem like a mystery. My sister queens, let me hear you scream. Divine, life giver, molder, shaper, uniquely made being. As Sojourner Truth said, I sell the shadow to support the substance. 20 trips back and forth to free 300, shotgun in your back, that's Harriet Tubman. Queen Nefertiti, Queen Amina, Queen Zinga, Queen Nandi. We can always pick up the slack like Amy Garvey. Assata Shakur deemed on the most wanted list. Rosa Parks in the back of that bus fighting for equal rights and justice. Like Lauryn Hill and Erykah Badu, working alongside Queen Afu, sacred remedies and lyrics, birthing truth through the womb from the spirits. Cycles and circles, cosmics and spheres, the mitochondrial DNA is held here. Cycles and circles, cosmics and spheres, the mitochondrial DNA is held here. Fire, air, water, earth, sacred geometry. Spiral on, queens, activate your Kundalini energy, for we are the goddesses of all goddesses. Ascend to the highest of high, my sister queens. It is time we unite. Ashayo.
Wow. Oh, SHEAKA, listen, I'm sure you have some more. Listen, I want to put together a show. Very impressive, right, Monica? Monica said very impressive. Steve Moore said big up. Steve Moore is in England. He said big up. I mean, guys, did you enjoy SHEAKA? If you did, put a comment now. If you listened to that poem and it really resonated and you love it, put a comment in the chat. Oh my Lord. That is really, really awesome. And I would love for you to come back. I know you have some more there. And we're gonna share, share the poetry, because a lot of us use creativity to heal. And that is what, in my case that I did. I use writing and film. Yeah. So people saying they love it, they love it, they love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing a piece of yourself, SHEAKA. And really and truly, this is well done. Alex Mitchell is saying, well done, well done. This is actually, SHEAKA, why counseling and rehabilitation is so important for these young ladies, because look, you were inside there and look at you now. You are blessing people all over the world. People are watching and listening to you from 16 Caribbean countries. Yeah. People are watching you. People are in England watching you, all about watching you. And so all of those girls within the GIS, we're saying they're queens. They are queens. And you know what we're saying is that they need to provide the facility for them to be able to overcome the trauma and not be, the government being caught up in all of this publicity stunt at this time and think that people are going to back down. Well, SHEAKA, I have a woman here, a tiny little woman, and in Jamaica we say she lick about she talawa, right? A little about Talawa is a little woman here, and let me tell you, if they think she's gonna let up, I tell you, they don't know her yet. Yeah, so she's one of those queens that SHEAKA is speaking about. Yes, Everton is saying that the poem is very deep. Yeah, very deep. Oh, you're not connecting, Heaven. You're not connecting. I'm sorry about that. Keep trying. Very deep poem. Well, we have with us here Miss Tempu Nefertari, and she's a spokesperson for Women in Action, which is a networking organization made up of people from different walks of life and various organizations right across Barbados. And I want to welcome her here, Tempu. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon and greetings to you, Marcia. Greetings to all of those online listening to us this afternoon.
Yes, well, I'm so happy to have you on. And, I'm sure you would have heard some of our sister SHEAKA's testimonial this afternoon. Of her experience in GIS. She talked about being there and no counseling being offered to her. She talked about the verbal abuse no proper nutrition, etc. While she was there. However, I'm sure you would have heard the two former wards on our state television the last two nights talking about their, the wonderful experience that they had at GIS. And I saw in the press where the Women in Action, they gave a statement to the press about this. Can you share with us the viewpoint of the Women in Action concerning the interviews that occurred last night?
Yes, certainly, Marcia. But before I do that, I really need to acknowledge the continuous support and action of all the women who have come together under the umbrella of Women in Action and the others who are coming. We are hearing constantly of other women, other mothers who want to be a part of this action. And I want to thank you all for reaching out. I want to thank you for drawing in. And I want to thank you for the consistency, because we are not going to let up until we get the reform that is necessary for our girls. Now, Marcia, I don't know if you would have heard, I think you would have been in the show when the 1 o'clock news broadcast here in Barbados just a little while ago. And I really want to welcome the Prime Minister's voice to the mix finally, because the Prime Minister gave a statement today. So you'll get to hear that a little later, and I'll comment on that after I address your question. Now, the interviews with the former wards. I am certain that if we do a poll across Barbados and ask random citizens what impression was left with them after the interviews, most of the answers would certainly not encapsulate the GIS being a pleasant place for girls within the penal structure. I am sure they would not be saying to you that the GIS is an institution, a desirable institution for young girls to be sent to. That is the impression that they wanted us to get, but it's not what we were left with. It was an insult. It was an insult to Barbadians, Marcia. It really was, because it was clearly an outright effort to bring a different narrative. But the thing about the narrative is it wasn't real. And this is not in any way not discounting the experiences of these young girls. But when you hear how they spoke, the language that they used about particular issues. So they spoke about solitary confinement. And the way they spoke about solitary confinement, you can tell that they spoke about it in a way to debunk everything that is being said about solitary confinement. And at the same time, they could not openly declare that solitary confinement was pleasant. You know, they talked about how it took place. And what was very worrying for me was the young lady who was, she was laughing and throwing back her head, and I just couldn't understand what was so pleasant about recounting that experience. Because even in her testimony, she didn't speak about any fun activities they did. If these are girls 13 to 14, tell me that they were playing rounders twice a week, or tell me they had a netball team where they competed against each other and that was fun, you know, or tell me sometimes they put on concerts among themselves and that was fun. I thought she was going to come with some of those activities. I didn't hear anything like that. So there were some big gaps in the testimonies for me that
Mm-hmm.
made them quite implausible. Nevertheless, you would expect that the government would need to do something. They would need to respond in one way or the other, and that was the way they chose to respond. But
Mm-hmm.
Marcia, we made it very clear in our press release.
Mm-hmm.
We made it very clear. If one single child is abused, any form of abuse, then we stand against it. We say no to it. We say it is unfair. We say it is unjust. We say it is unnecessary. Why?
Right.
Because there is no need to abuse children. There is, in even reprimanding a child. Uh, I mean, you know that children are young, and Marcia, this is the difficulty that we actually have in our post-colonial societies.
Mm-hmm.
Our people are not seized of the depth of understanding of who children are. You understand me?
Mm-hmm.
Our
Mm-hmm.
foreparents came off of the plantation. They came off of the plantation where they saw children being treated in a particular way. Most times they
Mm.
were not
Wow.
allowed to nurture the bonds that they
Mm-hmm.
would have established with their children, because children were taken away from them. They were basically
Mm-hmm.
just there to be used for labor. So the relationship that we saw, it was not the best. And I'm not saying there weren't those caring actions that existed between some, but
Mm-hmm.
we're saying that that level of dignity and self-worth is
Yes.
not something that has ever been associated with our ancestors because of the plantation experience. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I, I could also go beyond slavery to talk about how we were treated within our cultural environment. You understand? Because we
Yes.
know about dignity and self-worth as a people, but with the
Mm-hmm.
interruption of the kidnapping of our ancestors and spreading them across these plantations, that way of life that we were
Yes.
subjected to has influenced the way we see and value each other, including the way we see and value children. And we
Mm-hmm.
have to
Mm-hmm.
be mindful that these governments we have, the governments are basically just made up of people like you and I, and
Mm-hmm.
some of them do not even have the depth of knowledge that some of our citizens in the wider society have. They're not as
Mm-hmm.
well rounded in their knowledge and their understanding to say that they can use that to influence the policies that they contribute to while in government. So we have to
Mm-hmm.
expect that we're going to see these um these lacunas, these gaps that need to be filled. But then this is where we come in, and this is where civil society come in, that we assist
Mm-hmm.
them in their understanding of who children are. So
Right.
the point there that I'm making is that we don't expect our children to be abused. Even if it's one child, it matters to us. So it doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
how many former wards come forward and say it was a nice experience, it wasn't so bad. We are concerned
Mm-hmm.
about the ones who said, I was abused,
I
I
was
was used for
abused. Yes.
sex, I was
Yes. I
beaten.
mean, wow. Wow. Oh my goodness. And that is what I've heard former wards saying. And I've heard them, Temple, talking about being beaten, the verbal abuse that Shiaka just spoke about, telling the staff, telling the girls, you're not going to come out or anything.
Yeah.
I'm speaking down to them. That is, sometimes the verbal abuse is even worse than the physical abuse. And no proper nutrition and a lack of counseling for the girls, unless they go up to the psychiatric hospital. I mean,
Hmm.
this is, oh my goodness, this is something else. This is something else. I saw one of the women, one of the organizations, one of the women who represent an organization in the Women in Action network, wrote something, and I want to read that because I know you represent the Women in Action organization. And she said,
Yes.
we managed to change. This is in response to the Prime Minister's speech or comment. She said, we managed to change status to a republic in the middle of a pandemic, change laws and institute directives at the drop of a hat. Yet we are still using the pandemic and parliamentary will as excuses for not protecting our vulnerable. We cannot, and she puts it in bold, we cannot let up. Our children have already been abused too much. It is already too late for action for them. We cannot risk allowing any political rhetoric to allow delays in the implementation of required solutions. We have already experienced the fallout of these PR stunts of promises to take action, and then months later, even years, nothing is done until a photo or a story emerges about child abuse. This response, she's talking about the Prime Minister's response, is obviously a matter not as a result of having a will to remedy the situation, but is a response that has been provoked by a situation escalating to the point where it is politically threatening locally and globally. It is critical, she says, that we maintain the pressure until the solutions have been implemented. If not, we will have to start at zero again, as has happened repeatedly. Our children cannot afford this. She says our children cannot afford this. What's your thoughts about that, Temple?
She's absolutely correct, Marcia. Our children cannot afford us going back to the baseline and starting this again. You know, there were other groups that previously spoke out about this, attempted to have ministers to the Prime Minister, and there were only promises. We are building on that, and there's going to be no stopping. There will be no stopping until we see the reforms. And we are saying to the Prime Minister, we listen. These are women that you're speaking to. These are mothers that you are speaking to. We don't want the rhetoric. Save the rhetoric to deal with other issues. You see this issue as it relates to our children? We're saying just simply fix it. Just simply fix it. So we want to reach the stage now where she said in 6 weeks, and I know that we would have seen in the newspaper a few weeks ago, maybe at least about 2 weeks, that the independent panel was put in place for this investigation of the department itself. And she's saying in 6 weeks we will have that report. So by the 29th of June, we are expected to have that report. And I want to encourage, I want to urge, I want to insist, I want to even command the Prime Minister and her troops, work on the legislation between now and the 29th. Don't wait until the 29th come and think you're going to tell us you now have to work on the legislation, because this is important enough that we get immediate action on it. Those girls that are in psychiatric hospital, at least we know they'll be getting more nutritious meals based on what SHEAKA had to say. Be thankful for that. But we want to know that they're not being drugged. We want to know that they're not being abused. We want to know that they are being rehabilitated, even as they're in there. So we need quick movement on this. There's no lagging. There's no sitting back, waiting for anything else. And we are going to hold the government to this.
Yes, and don't stop, because the moment you stop, I've been doing some research and I realized that ever so often you have various groups like, you know, the Women in Action, the Save, I can't remember, Save Space, you know, hashtag Protect Our Girls, and they come up. And then as the person who wrote the comment there, you know, it starts up and then it stops. And I think that this is a time where these mothers, we're talking about some serious mothers here, need to hold on to this thing and say, we're not giving up, we're not letting up until it is fixed. I love how you said that, Tempu. This needs to be fixed. This needs to be fixed. And you know what? The good thing about it, I know that there's so many people who are private citizens who are working on different things, and they're not going to wait on the prime minister. They are going to find solutions. Solutions are being found even now. You know, Temple. I don't think
That's
people are
right.
generally. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh no, we are discussing solutions, and we are going to be in the mainstream media just now with some of those solutions, because we are solution oriented, but at the same time, those who have hurt our children, the ones who stood idly by and allowed others to take our girls out, because we have heard the stories around of
Mm-hmm.
men who are able to walk into the institution and select a girl, handpick a girl, and walk out with her.
What?
You understand me?
You're saying this is what
We
you've heard of that?
That is an account that I have also received.
Oh my goodness. That people are able to go in there and walk out with a girl?
That is, as I have also heard.
Listen, Latoya, you're shocked like myself here. And this is something that no, there should be no stalling on this issue.
No,
Oh wow. Let me ask
no.
Shiaka, have you heard that? Shiaka, are you still there? I'm not sure if Shiaka is still there. We have
Yes,
joining us.
Queen. I'm still here. I'm still here.
Right. Have you ever heard of people being able to go in and select a girl from the GIS?
I've heard about it lately. Yes,
Oh my Lord.
I've
Wow, wow,
heard about
wow,
it.
wow. Latoya, you're like me. I'm like, oh my God. What's her name? Real ISIS is saying that she can start fixing the situation by removing the Minister of Home Affairs and Information, Wilfred Arthur Abrams, because he lied. He lied. In my estimation, I believe that he lied to the public. He lied to the public. If he didn't lie to the public, there'd be no need for an investigation now.
A third one. Now
A
there's
third
need
investigation.
so the previous
Wow.
investigations did not reveal anything of concern to him, but yet he's going back for a third investigation. Let's see what's going to come out of it. But we know what's been happening, and that's why we want the place gutted completely. Meaning we want the school closed down. We don't even want the staff currently associated with the wards to be the
Mhm.
staff who work with the children again. Because Marcia, what we are actually staring in the face, right? I don't know if people have given any thought to this. What we are staring in the face is a mindset and an attitude towards children that is unhealthy. You understand
Mhm.
me? If you can have children in a place and it's okay for you to feed them scraps or not feed them.
Mhm.
If it's okay for you to encourage girls to bully and fight with other girls, if it's
Mhm.
okay for you to know that these girls are being molested, and you're turning a blind eye to it, something is wrong with you. Do you not
Mhm.
have children at home? Do you not have children anywhere in your family? But you're
Mhm.
saying that these particular girls deserve this kind of treatment?
Mm.
What so you see that mindset. Above all,
Mhm.
any caregivers that are going to work with our children, from the principal down to the housekeeper, from the
Mhm.
principal down to the maid, they need to have a psychological evaluation, one, and they need to be trained. They need to understand how precious our children are. What are you talking about? If
Mhm.
listen to if we ill treat our children, they will ill treat their children.
Mhm.
And we will only build a society of people who are ill treating each other.
Mhm. Mhm.
We gotta get it right. We gotta get it right. Marcia, I want to share with you, if I have the time, I want to share
Yes.
with you the clause from the supplement to the Slave Act that deals with wandering.
Mhm.
Just to show you how this legislation is really just a cut of the colonial legislation that we had previously. And this is the opportunity for the government to shine, you know. If the government is really strategic, this is the opportunity for them to shine. Because
Correct.
as we have now taken on the Republican status, you know, this is the time for us to shine regionally and globally, to say that one of the greatest reforms the government of Barbados has undertaken is that of the Juvenile Offenders Act and the whole slew of legislation associated with juvenile justice. You know, we can lead out front. We can have other Caribbean countries following us in terms of these reforms. Now,
Yeah.
the clause is clause 17, and it says, it is absolutely necessary to the safety of this place that all due care be taken to restrain the wandering and the meetings of Negroes at all times, most especially on Saturday nights, Sundays, etc., etc. But this is where we get the word wandering from in the slave legislation. But in this day today, we have come to understand that when our girls in particular so-called wander away from home, it is because the situation at home is one that it is oppressing them, most times out of being molested by somebody in the home or somebody who's coming to the home, and they're looking for a safe space. These are those girls that fall under the category of children in need of care. So
Right.
when you meet them and you pick them up and you carry them to court then, and you read them a charge of wandering, and you put them in an institution where they're abused, you're only adding to the initial abuse. We don't want that. Let's rethink this. Let's rethink this. And I think rethinking is also looking at some preventative measures so that we don't have children who are being abused, well, as much as we can avoid that. And then if children are being abused, that we empower the parents to seek the not only the justice, but also the care that children need to get them back on a balanced keel, having to deal with some form of abuse. So we need
You
to
know,
empower parents.
yes, yes, and listening to you, that is actually when you speak. Anytime you speak with a former ward of GIS, you know, that's what they're talking about. They're saying, listen, you know, we want an opportunity. We wanted when we were there an opportunity to heal and to be who, you know, God has created us to be. We wanted to find, as SHEAKA talked about, finding that queen inside. They wanted that opportunity, but they weren't given it because they hardly had any counseling there. Steve Moore has joined us, and we have another 10 minutes before we close. So, Steve, what are your thoughts? Have you heard the comment from the Prime Minister? Or what are your thoughts?
No, I do not listen to Prime Minister of Barbados. I do not listen to CBC. I do not listen to none of them because all of them know what's going on. From the report you read from the United Nations or whatever, whoever it is you read before, they knew about this problem.
UNICEF. They had a
UNICEF.
report out since
UNICEF.
2009. So I
Well,
don't know where she's
they
coming
know
with this
about this
promise.
because all of these people were in positions where they knew about this. This is nothing new. This has been going on from eons. All right. And I unfortunately cannot give no person a break who knew about this. Even the Prime Minister would have had to know about this because your Prime Minister used to be in a position long ago, since 2006 too as well, to know what's going on. So there is no talking about Barbados leading from the front when Barbados is part of the government is part of this problem. All right. And I'm going to be guns blazing, guns firing. All right. UNICEF has made it clear nothing that's been promised or comfort or fool to the Barbados public for too long with this nonsense that should have been wrapped up and kicking its butt. I still believe Abrams need to go home. He need to go. He's been covering it up and lying to the Barbados people for too long. He's been 2 years is too long. He's been lying to the Barbados public. This should have done. The girl should feel safe. The charge of wandering should be strict from the books of Barbados, and fix these problems. These problems should have been fixed to build a better community in Barbados, rather than people in Barbados still carrying that hush hush slavery mindset where people cannot speak because they're afraid of reprisal. All right. And people will know me by my voice. I don't care about the reprisal. I don't care about nothing. So I care about them young women. Them young women is first priority. I don't care who say what. All right. Those young women should be made to feel safe, in a safe environment, with proper nutrition, it should be even a case of teaching these young women to be able to cook for themselves, to be able to do things for themselves, and so on, that when they come back out, they are good members of society, and so on. And none of that's being done. None. Wilfred Abrams need to go home.
Correct.
Point blank. Point blank.
Correct. Well,
I totally agree with you. I endorse that. Steve. He's had more than enough time. More than enough time. And he has shown that he is not competent to address these matters.
No, he's not. He's not.
But my mother always said to me, you can get away from a thief, but not a liar. So you can't get away from Wilfred Abrams. He need to be out of the job ASAP. Point blank. He's not fit for purpose. It's not. All right. And
you know, the Stockholm News, I'm seeing something here. Breaking news, Stockholm News. PM promises reform of juvenile justice system. Well, I will tell you, as Tempu said, you know, guys, we can't stop. You know, you have to, whoever, all the activists that are there, do not stop. The cause of the children is just too important. You can't stop because you were promised something.
Promise is a comfort to a fool.
Yeah. In our last bit here, Alex Mitchell has joined us. Alex, you have a few minutes. Alex, did you hear what the Prime Minister say, Alex? Well, people jumping into this thing. Alex, you there? Okay, Isis, you're on. Isis, did you hear what the Prime Minister say, Isis? Not hearing anybody. Alex, can you hear?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you now.
I am on the same sentiments as Steve. Even I do not listen to the radio, TV. Maybe that's something that's printed. Somebody may have sent it to me. The point of the matter is, when you check what I sent to you, you can do a show on that. From 1999, they knew they had a problem. Okay? From 1999. They had to have the problem before 1999. And David Simmons, Attorney General and Minister of Home Affairs, in 2001, had a green paper. It's about 25 pages.
You can show us the paper. We can see it in the camera. Show us what you're talking about. Yes, that's good. Right there is good.
Right? And this right here is what I sent to you. Okay? And you'll be able to go through it and do what it is that you need to do to get the word out. They knew every sense. So they're all guilty. And I don't care what the liar comes on TV tonight and say, what they print in the lying papers tomorrow, the facts at the facts. And this so-called crime minister that we have today was also an attorney general back in 2001, where other information came to these attorney generals. Every last attorney general from Barbados time till now have all covered up the crimes, never prosecuted any cases, nor the DPP. What's the use of the DPP? What is the use of the police but to investigate, to see who is related so that they can get away with whatever it is that they have done, right? The police investigate to cover up, and the ministers go there as the mouthpiece. It appears right before an election or right before they have to blame themselves that they found something wrong. It seems like they put so much drugs in the water that the people wake up like zombies the next day and forget what happened the day before. So we have to keep at this all the time until it comes to where it's supposed to be. Whether it's UNICEF, whether it's the United Way, whether it's their own reports, right? And we don't want to hear nothing about this slavery thing. They had from 1966 to get rid of whatever was on the books that we did not like that applied. These people now take over the government and they take over the same behavior in a different skin, so they feel it's justified that blacks can do it to blacks. But it's illegal when whites do it to blacks. But when blacks do it to black, it's okay.
It's okay. Actually, I'm sure you would have heard Temple give us the history of the wandering, and it's connected to slavery.
Exactly. So if you got,
it is still on the books.
So if you got independence in 1966, what's your problem? If you got independence and then you went to what? Republic, and it's still there, and you can't even write a constitution, you can't write integrity legislation. How can they write it when every time any minister comes on TV or radio, they lie? Every one of them lied to you. You cannot get 100%.
Abrams did the same thing to us.
Abrams is, if he is a lawyer, who would want him to be representing them when he can't even represent the young people that's under him? He should be an animal. He should be vicious. He should be a Mike Tyson. He should be a Muhammad Ali knocking them out. No, you don't mess with these. These are ours. He
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so I don't want to hear nothing from him. He has to go. Let's just go. We don't
that's powerful. Isn't that a powerful imagery? He's saying he's a lawyer. Why aren't you fighting for the children? Isn't that
lawyer?
Yes.
Marcia.
Yes, Marcia. You know, Marcia, I'm so grateful. I am so grateful for the voices of our fathers here. And, you know, they have called for it. On your show today, the fathers have called for it. Abrams have to go. He has to go. Our fathers have stood up and they've called for it. He has to go.
You know, Tempu, and I have goosebumps right now, guys, because these men, Emmanuel, Steve, Alex, they have not let go of this issue. You see how fast they jump on here? They have been out there pushing this issue in social media. The fathers, even before I got on it, they brought me on it. And I'm so proud of these men. And you're right, the fathers have spoken today. Abrams has to go. He has not fought hard enough for those girls.
No, he has not. And if the men have said that, if our men have looked at him as a man, as an attorney, as somebody who we expect to be fighting for our children, and our men have said he has to go, then that's it. He has to go. We've been idle on this for too long.
Marcia.
Yes.
Let me see it, right?
Wait, hold a minute there, Steve. Isis is here, and let Isis.
Yes.
Hold that thought there, Steve. We're going to come to you, my brother. Go ahead, Isis.
Divine greetings to you, Sister Marcia, warrior, and to the guests there.
Warrior.
Yes. Now, first of all, I said it before, and I'm going to make it plain. Wilfred Arthur Abrams has to resign. If the Prime Minister is serious about GIS, the first thing she should said is she have asked him to resign or he will be fired. The Prime Minister was also a Deputy Prime Minister in Barbados. How can you be? So we can talk about her being Attorney General. But she was, because when she was removed as Attorney General, when we had the reshuffling of the cabinet in February of 2006, Dale Marshall was placed there as Attorney General, and Mia was made his Deputy Prime Minister. What I am saying is this is very disheartening and this is very disturbing, because the language that Wilfred Arthur Abrams used in relation to our children, When the girls were missing, he said they're going to be secure and cozy. How can you feel comfortable when you are going to come to the public and say the investigations found that that the girls made the girls seem like liars? How can you feel comfortable in that organization? How can you feel comfortable in that institution other than to run away? Because it means if I am being abused. Now, I hear people said, I know people from my teenage years that went in, that came out of Somerville. There were horror stories. Some person was slapped in their face. They slapped back the woman in her face, and then they choked her. This was
Being a
one of the
staff
wards.
member. So this is in line with what the others are saying, and I like to pause there because somehow they're making out our young people as liars. So you're saying that one of the wards told you that they were slapped in their face by a staff member?
Listen to me. This was when I was a teenager, Marcia. This is how long this abuse has been going on. And I, as a young lady, used to be, I'm going 42 in July. This is why I don't want to hear nothing from this regime. We don't have a government, we have a regime. And we
That's
need to
correct.
get serious. We need to step up and we need to say enough is enough. You have our young ladies know how it is. You are pending, you are telling me about you're doing an investigation. A lady put out a voice note that you heard. She was very passionate. She said, well, if our girls are liars, let them speak. How all of a sudden then the minister say, oh, we're going to have a probe. We're going to probe the situation. We're going to have another investigation. And then the majority of the potential victims, the alleged potential victims, I am going to say that, walking a legal line, right, is going to be on suicide watch. So how are you going to have an investigation? So what are they going to do? The drugs up and you go, yeah. The investigators are here. Like, does this make any sense? And then the prime minister,
Right.
with all of this intelligence, all of this education she has, because education and brilliance and intelligence are totally different things. You can be educated and still be an idiot. We need to call a spade a spade. I am sick
Yes.
and tired. And warrior Alex Mitchell, you know you're my warrior, you're my warrior, and I love you more. Steve, the same thing. To who are serious about this, we need to. So I'm gonna
And
say my
you
piece now.
know what? Heaven Hoyt is here, real ISIS, and she wrote something. I would love to get hold of you, Heaven. She said my mother wanted me to go home. She was a ward at GIS with her, okay, and she apologized to the now president of Barbados, Sandra Mason, and she said Sandra Mason sentenced her to 4 years. She was a juvenile magistrate at that time, and she
Marcia,
shouted at my mother. This is Heaven Hoyt. Said Sandra Mason shouted at her mother, and her mother wanted to take her home, and she wouldn't allow the mother to take home her child. Heaven, we need to hear your story. Go ahead, Steve.
Marcia, this regime, including the Sandra Mason and all of them, need to go. They are not fit for purpose in Barbados. I always felt that way, and I always knew that way. They should go as well. Call a new election, give it a good period of time, and let the people choose their elective representative. All right? This whole regime need to go. All right? Now, I made a comment on CBC's Facebook page. CBC is also pushing the agenda, all right, with the two young women speaking about what was going on. CBC is pushing the agenda. CBC complained to Facebook for me because I asked a question. It wasn't derogatory. It wasn't out of context. The young lady contacted me privately, stating all sorts of nonsense. And I just asked him, what is there for you to gain? She can't answer that question. You understand? And this is where they have let down. They're calling the young ladies who are running away liars. They shouldn't even, what are there to gain? Their time has gone. They shouldn't be getting on TV, especially CBC, speaking about this, trying to convince the Barbados public that there's nothing to see here. This is madness, absolutely madness. And those young ladies that was on the TV, we need to find out what have they gained by coming out, making those young ladies out to be liars. Those women making those young ladies out to be liars. They're making I am livid. I'm disgusted by that. Very, very disgusted. This is one of the reasons why I do not watch CBC for nothing. And I do not listen to the Prime Minister of Barbados, because all I hear is blah, blah, blah. And that's it. Nothing else.
You know, the thing is, there's a plan here, guys, that when she comes out and what they did, it's a PR. They've sat down and hired PR people. You know, I'm in media and I'm telling you what has happened is that they hired PR people and they've worked out a strategy. And the strategy is to get the girls coming out to speak. The Prime Minister would speak on Wednesday at such and such a time, and it's a plan to restore everything and to keep the country back down, to get the activism to die down. That's what it is. And it's whether are we going to be sheep? So the Prime Minister has come out and she's spoken, and what that means is that she's trying to say, okay, this is part of the plan. Everybody shut up now. Shut up, because I've come out and I've spoken and it's going to be dealt with. The girls said everything is fine. And we're gonna, and so we need to shut up. That's what that is all about. It's done in every issue in Barbados, and they are very skilled at PR. They're very, very skilled at PR. This administration, they know how to use the media, and they didn't go to social media, you know, because they know social media is filled with the testimonial of the girls. So they went to traditional media, and I'm telling you how it works. From traditional media, then they went to print media, and then they're going to go to social media. It is part of a program. It's a marketing plan. It's a PR plan to bring everything, you know, to restore their whatever, you know, they want to restore about themselves of being so good and so excellent, and it's going overseas, and they want to make sure their brand is clean, and you know, that's all it is. It's whether us as sheep, whether we are going to bow to this or we're going to continue. I think that's what it is.
Marcia,
Yes,
it's settled, right? It's already settled. We're not going anywhere. That's not in question. We're not going anywhere, and we're not let up. And for every girl they bring out to debunk the claims that are there, we'll bring out one or two with testimonies that I'm sure they don't want the public to hear. But we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and Heaven Hoyt, I'm putting my number here. Heaven Hoyt is going to, I know you're watching on YouTube. Heaven, please call our organization and let me put you in touch with the right people that would be able to get your story out there. Very important. We're in this, Heaven. Don't listen, when you're ready to give your story, nobody even have to see your face or know your voice. Don't worry about it. Okay, so you can call that number, and I could put you on to some people who might be able to help you to get that story out there by whatever means necessary. We have to help these girls. And Heaven is talking about having to sleep with the filth of another girl for the entire night. One person will you know, urinate and pass stool in the corner of the room, and just like how they deal with adults in a prison is how they're dealing with the girls, and they have to sleep with that in their nose, little 12 and 13, 14-year-old girls. And you could come back, Mr. Abrams, and say that there is no evidence of abuse at that place. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is something else. It can't even think of it. You know what? Who is it? SHEAKA is still here. SHEAKA, you're hearing all of this. We're going to close. I'm going to give everybody that's on a minute to say something to the public, and we're going to be on again at 11 a.m. on Saturday. I know Politically Incorrect, I don't know if they're on tonight, but they're on in the evenings as well. So support that show, because we are all, everybody, listen, all hands on deck, because we ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. All hands on deck, y'all. Everybody, you're going to share this live. You're on this live. All of you, those watching on YouTube, on Facebook, share this live because we ain't going nowhere. We're talking here about children. Let the Prime Minister know we have found a hill that we're prepared to die on. Let the Prime Minister know that. Yeah, and let them know we are not going to let them. You're not going to come down like you're some top dog. Okay, die down, die down. It ain't going that way. Cause we just, you know, in Jamaica we say, you think we're done? We just come. You think we're done? We just come. Yeah. So let me hear from everybody. SHEAKA, what are your final words? Are you there, SHEAKA? Not hearing her?
Queen, you can hear me?
Yes, Queen. Go ahead. What's your final words to the people who are watching? We have a few minutes.
Well, my final words are, you know, I agree with what everybody on was saying just now. My final words are, you know, reform, close down the school, and let's have a better place, you know, better people that could help our girls. Our girls should never, our girls and boys should never be treated like criminals when they are not guilty of any offenses. So that's my final words. I just want to say to Heaven Height, much love and strength, Queen. You know, just continue to take care of yourself out here and tell your story. Be strong, Queen. Much love.
Oh, blessed love, my
Thank
sister.
you for having me.
Yes,
as well.
blessed love. And I want you to come back and give us some more poetry.
Definitely.
Yeah, and let me hear from who is it? Was there Steve Moore?
Yes, Marcia.
Final words. You have a 1 minute. 1 minute.
Yeah. I want to say to the Barbados public to stop stigmatizing and victimizing one another and start listening and understanding what people are saying and stop berating the victims. We need to stop that slavery mindset, start talking or speaking, and let's start doing better for one another, because Barbados is a community. It's a little rock in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and we got to sort the problems out ourselves. We shouldn't have to be bringing outside people to sort the problems out. We need to start listening and communicating better. Thank you. Peace out.
Thank you, Steve. And let me hear from Alex. These fighting fathers. Go ahead, Alex. 1 minute.
The proof is there one time of time. This is nothing. All of what you're seeing right now is the same people in the government at higher levels of the government that was involved in the very beginning. So I want to act like they're surprised and never knew. They're lying liars. Don't trust none of them.
Sorry about that. I'm going to take a read of this green paper that you have here, because what Alex is putting up here, he's showing us that if they wanted to fix it, they would have fixed it a long time ago. Yeah. And I'm going to give the final words to Tempu, who is a spokesperson for the networking organization Women in Action. Go ahead, Tempu.
Thanks, Marcia. I want to endorse all that I heard here this evening from the fathers who came on the line and from the other sisters who spoke. And I want to ask the former wards of the GIS, parents who would have listened to their children's stories. We want you to get in contact with our association, get in contact with our organization so that we can work with you.
Temple, is there a number?
There's a Facebook page. You can contact us via messenger on the Facebook page. You can also call 251-0880.
So let me put that up, please. Give me a moment. This is the WIA, the Women in Action, and it's a networking organization. And you can call them at 251, yes?
0880.
0880, okay? And you're
Our
asking.
email,
Mhm.
womeninaction.bb@gmail.com.
Womeninaction.bb,
.bb
yes,
at gmail at
at
gmail.com.
gmail.com, right? And this is what you're asking people to call. If they, and can you repeat what the call is for?
The call is for former wards of GIS.
Mm-hmm.
We want to hear from you. Make contact with us. It's very important that we hear from you. And to the general public, we want you to stay on this cause with us. We need to fight for our children. We can't leave it up to anybody else. The same care that we give to our children at home, we want any institution to give to our children. There is a higher obligation that we expect from the government, and we need to hold them to that. We need to hold them to that and do not accept when they come to speak to us like we're indigents. You know, like we have no intelligence, like we don't understand PR strategy. You know, you can't just come out to us and just say, you know, simmer down, because there's no simmering. There's no simmering to take place right now. As a matter of fact, we need to know what is the condition of the girls who are currently at Psyche. We want to report on them. How are they doing? We want a report on the girls that are currently at psychiatric hospital. You said they were on suicide watch. We want an update on those girls, because the government has to move away from this idea that they have, that they can just take charge of people's lives. You know, the parental rights have not been ousted. You know, there's no piece of legislation that makes the government the guardian of these underage children. So they're actually, they ought to be still reporting to the parents and the guardians what is the state of these children. And we want to know. And we're holding them to be accountable, full stop. So we want people to understand this train is not stopping. We are now starting, because we're not going to bring this to an end until we see reform that we're satisfied with. Full stop.
Thank you so much, Tempu, for taking the time out to be with us today. And many thanks to SHEAKA, to Steve Moore, to Alex Mitchell, to Isis, Real Isis, that came on. And we're going to be on again on Saturday, because this has to continue. This has to continue. We want to, the Women in Action, they want to hear from the wards, and that's the number that's on the screen that you can, and an email address that you can reach out to Women in Action. And they are going to, there are lots of things that are planned, I'm told. So you really need to connect with Women in Action, and even organizations, I think, Tempu, you were saying organizations that want to join Women in Action, that they can also join. Call for information.
Absolutely.
How to join.
That's right. It's a network of organizations. So come and be part of the network. Yes, men's organizations, women's organizations, religious organizations. If you believe in the cause and you can be part of the solution, then reach out, because we are also talking about the solutions. Don't for 1 minute think that, you know, we're here decrying the government and we're complaining, because there's always that section that will give you that narrative. But above all, we are speaking about rehabilitation. We are talking about solutions. So if you as an individual or organization can contribute to that, reach out to us and let's work together.
Okay, thank you so very much, Tempu. Thank you, and keep up the good work. And to all of those organizations that have been working behind the scenes and you know, keeping this alive. Emmanuel, you know, Barilia, I mean, you deserve an award for that. Alex and Steve, and Politically Incorrect, if somebody could put the information in the chat on when they're on, because I know that this is going to be fire tonight if they're on. So guys, put the information in the chat if you know exactly what time Politically Incorrect will be on tonight, because we're one, guys. It's one. We're one. We found that hill, and we're not going to let go until we see, justice come to our children. Our children. Okay. So until next
Thank you
time,
so
peace
much.
and love. Yes, thank you, Temple. And until such time, peace and love, guys. Let's keep the fire burning and let them know that if they think we're done, we just succumb. Yeah, there's no stopping us now. God bless you all and have a great evening and keep the fight going, warriors. God bless. Bye bye. Share this live.